Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello everybody, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and indeed I am back. So I want you in this video to take a journey with me. What we're going to do in this video is we are going to completely wipe the slate clean. Because, as you know, in order to do anything, you have to be operating from a base assumption. And very likely your base assumption about who you are is wrong. And when we can correct ourselves on what our base assumption is about who we are, then we can build. But as you know, as I've shared many times, if your assumption is incomplete or incorrect, then whatever conclusions you come to after that will at best be incomplete or incorrect. And you won't be able to accomplish your highest potential. So I want you to just for a moment think about how you feel, who you are. What are you? You're a human being. Where did you come from? Were you created by some being? Are you a ray of the infinite God? Are you God's creation? Do you believe, because those assumptions will then determine how you believe you interact with your environment. You will believe that your environment affects you, does things to you. Even if I say to you, you are an infinite deity. Well, who created the deities? Where did the deities come from? If I say to you, you are a star like our sun, you then say, oh, then who created the sun? Where did the sun come from? The sun is the source of all life on this planet, but something created that sun. So really feel that. Maybe you have an intellectual idea of where you came from, who you are, how you came to be. But more importantly, let's think about how you feel about that. When you think of yourself in the universe right now, do you have any feelings of anxiety? Do you have any feelings of limitation? I do. I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm finding that there's feelings of limitation and anxiety. Of course, being who I am, it's, but I would be inaccurate if I said that I didn't have any of that. So I want to completely destroy whatever that feeling is. I want you to be willing to take a journey with me and destroy your assumptions about who you think you are, where you think you came from. It's just a good idea with me anyway, not to have any opinions, because, I'm the only one allowed to have opinions in my home. I'm inviting you in my home. I'm the only guy that's supposed to have any opinions here. So, in your house, you can have all the opinions you want. In my house, All right, so I want to share with you an experience I had when I was first training in this, the Maoshan spirit fighting. If you've read any of my books, you may have read, and by the way, my books can be found here at courses.thunderwizard.com, or you can just look for me, Michael William Denny, on Amazon. But in, I don't know how many of my books, at least one or two, I talk about the tremendous shift that took place within me when I practiced this Maoshan spirit fighting. And one of the things that happened was after doing my practices, one night, I'm trying to remember exactly where I was what I was doing, where I was, and I can't remember. I just remember the meditation. But I had simply, after doing these practices, I was filled with energy. And the thing about these practices for me is that when I do them, I don't have to try and meditate. I don't have to try and empty my mind. I go into this trance-like state, and I don't know where I am. I'm not even trying to know where I am. I'm in this just whole different state of being. And one night I was meditating, and I saw myself from the outside as if I was some tiny little, atomic little being, and I was floating around me, and I was seeing myself sitting there meditating, surrounded by darkness, and there was just this titanic, representation of me, and I was sort of just kind of going around it, and the feeling I got was that the gods worship me. And I thought to myself, that is a really strange thing to think. And then I also, and it wasn't like I was thinking it, it was like this was coming out of the emptiness that was surrounding me. And as I was sitting there meditating, I also became aware that there was space around me, meaning like stars and planets and constellations and all the stuff, outer space kind of stuff. It was all, I was in this huge universe filled with all these different celestial bodies. And then it wasn't a voice, it was more like a feeling that sort of welled up within me. And it said, when you look into the sky, you are looking in yourself. So right now, if we were to walk outside, right now it's dark where I am, I don't know what it's like where you are. If I was to walk outside right now and look up, and if it was a really brilliantly starlit night and you saw all of the stars and all of the galaxies out there, as huge as that is all inside of you. Every person you know is inside of you. Everything you can possibly think of, alternate dimensions, alternate universes, the past, the present, the future, everything that you think is outside of you is inside of you. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try and be something so that the world will approve of you. Be something so you can gain success from something outside of you. And I know as I say this, you're listening to me going, yeah, but that's great for you to say that, but that's not the reality. I've got bills. That knowledge of everything is inside of me isn't paying my bills. I understand that feeling. So I came up with a phrase trying to bring into explanation the feeling that I have. So imagine everything that exists. this entire universe, which by the way is infinite, and yet it is not everything there is. Deal with that. We live in an infinite universe that is not everything. There are other things beyond our universe, and yet our universe is infinite. All of the other universes, all of the other timelines, all of the other dimensions, all of the star systems, all of the other beings that must live on other planets, in other star systems, maybe in times past. I mean, our solar system is very young. So it's possible that there have been civilizations that have come and gone on other planets. They traveled the stars, they mapped the stars, and then they're gone. Their star died, their solar system is gone. Everything that's going to happen in the universe, all of the life that's going to arise within the universe, all of this is inside of you. What scientists are coming to the realization of is that the one thing that's missing from any explanation about objective reality is consciousness. So I don't know if you've heard of a very old experiment. I think it was first done in the 1890s or something. And it was an experiment to try and decide whether or not light was a particle or a wave. It's a very simple experiment. You just put a light in front of a card, and you cut two slits in it, and then you have something on the back. It could be a photographic paper even. You put something on the back to record the light. And then you take a look at it. So if, what should happen is that light should be sort of where these two slits are. But light does this really weird thing. Whereas light is coming towards the card or the piece of wood with the two slits in it. Let me see if can I make two slits. Instead of there just being one beam of light here and one beam of light here, what happens is there's two beams of light, and then a third one creates itself on the other side of where there should be no light coming through. And it records itself as though it just doesn't follow any rules that you would understand. And if that isn't weird enough, the other thing that gets weird is that how the experiment goes depends upon who's viewing it. So if somebody views it, the light changes itself. And in other words, you can block it up so you can't see it, but if you actually do this experiment and you put somebody anywhere, you can put them in the same room with the experiment, or you can on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is ask them to imagine which slit the light is going into. That's all you have to do. They don't have to try and make it happen. They don't have to be psychic. They just have to have an idea. Okay, I think it's going to come in through the left. Sure enough, it's going to come in through the left. It means that light is responding not to a specific person, anybody's consciousness. Light is responding to it as though you are controlling it. So the bottom line of that experiment that scientists end up skirting around is the idea that before everything is consciousness. On the subatomic level, there's nothing but space. If we talk about an atom, let's say an atom takes up this amount of space. There's going to be a little thing here that you can barely see, and then there's going to be a neutron or whatever, a proton, revolving around it, which you won't be able to see. And so 99.999999999% of that atom is going to be empty space. And yet, even though that is what I'm made of, which is almost entirely empty space, I can't push my hands through each other. they still block each other. Even if you take a knife and you stab somebody with the knife never touches the other person. It just, the magnetic field sort of breaks apart. But there's always separation between objects, always. And all we have is empty space. And we have in the universe, there's a problem with, there should be, the mass of the universe should be different. When they do calculations on, the galaxies and things like that, it comes up wrong. There's all this empty space. And the end result, when you follow that, is all of that empty space is consciousness. That consciousness is, that everything is conscious. Now imagine all of the consciousness, we'll just deal with our universe. That's hard enough. Imagine all of the consciousness in this universe. If you were to fold it so that all of that infinite consciousness that spans the entire length and breadth and width of our infinite universe, if you were to take all of the consciousness in there and you were to fold it so that it could fit right there, that's what you are. You are a conscious being. You have awareness, you have self-awareness, you have consciousness. In order to be conscious, by definition, you are everything that has ever or will ever exist. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't be conscious. You would not be self-aware. And the whole point of meditation, energy work, all the point of all of this stuff is to begin to awaken to what that is. And when I research spontaneous or miraculous healings of people who have life-threatening illnesses like cancer, that's a big one. A lot of cancer patients who are dying, and they either have a near-death experience or on their deathbed they go into a coma. What ends up happening with the ones that come back and have these miraculous healings is that when they leave their physical body, and bear in mind, when you leave your physical body, you leave your identity behind. So all of the stuff that you think that makes you up, I was born in such and such, my parents did this to me, I like this, I don't like that, my name is so-and-so, and I'm this kind of a person, and all that stuff is nonsense. All of that stuff is a cloak that you wear. But, in order to be a limited human, you have to play a part. So you put on this cloak, which is all of that stuff you think you are. But when you leave your body, that stays behind. You don't take that with you. You go back to the infinity that you were before. And so what happens with people, at least the ones that I've researched, is when they leave their body, they will oftentimes talk with a family member or a deity, or they'll an angel, a guide, something. They'll end up having some interaction, and the lesson that I've seen is always the same, which is you don't need to do anything to be loved. Just by existing, your existence itself is the only requirement to be loved. And that the universe, consciousness, is that love. You become that. You are that. And then, in numerous cases I've looked at, while they're off having this experience, they go, oh my God, the whole time I lived my life, I was trying to please my dad, or I was trying to be good enough, or I was trying to get people to love me, or I was trying to fix everybody, whatever it was that they thought they had to do, which of course they were failing at miserably. And then they believed that they weren't lovable, they didn't have any value. I mean, that's the human condition, isn't it? That when they come to realize, oh, I'm feeling all of this love and I'm being told, or I've come to this realization by living in this conscious light or wherever they are, that love is everything and I am love. And, this idea that I need to accomplish something is ridiculous. I am everything. There's, once they come to that complete self-acceptance and self-awareness of who they are, then they know when they go back to their body, they're going to heal. Even though they're riddled with cancer and there's just no way, that they're beyond hope. Their body's, completely contorted and eating itself alive with horrific cancer. They know that when they go back in their body that they'll heal, because they know that that's what was causing it the whole time, was this misunderstanding that they needed to do something or be something in order to be lovable, which means in order to have a reason to live, to be worthy, to be relevant, all of that. And so they come back into their body, and then that's exactly what happens. In those cases, the doctors are like, oh my God, what's happening? I've never seen anything like this. Your tumors are shrinking. And then, they walk out on their own recognizance and they're completely cancer-free, and then they go around the world, giving these lectures about, how they healed. So that essence of love is the infinity in between everything. The 99.999999% of the empty space is that consciousness. And that consciousness is you. You're looking at me right now on your computer screen. I guarantee you I am a flesh and blood person. I'm sitting here on the couch in my Airbnb here in northern Florida. I guarantee you I'm a real person, and yet I am nothing more than something that exists inside of you. Everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever touched, everything you've ever experienced, every person you've ever spoken to, your parents, people that have died in the past, people that haven't been born yet, the gods, the goddesses, the demons, the demigods, the forces of nature, the five elements, all of these things are inside this infinitely small point of light inside your heart. And the real question is, what is it going to take for us to awaken to that? So if you can start with that assumption, remember the assumption that you had before when I asked you, okay, so what is it that you think you are? Where did you come from? Were you created by something? Are you a ray of light from God? Is God there and you're one of his rays of light that comes down into this world? Are you an avatar? Are you a deity? Are you a soul? What the heck are you? Imagine all of those things. All of those things are just things inside of you. If you're watching this and it's already been recorded, go ahead and press pause. And if it's at night, or it doesn't matter, during the day, walk outside and look up in the sky. See the clouds or see the stars. See the mountains, the forest, if you're surrounded in the city, all of the cars going by, all the people in the cars. Think about everything you can possibly think of. Governments, then go beyond our solar system, our sun, our Milky Way galaxy. All of that is inside here. Quantum folded till it's inside here. The whole idea of space, big things, small things, that's an illusion. There is no such thing. Big or small, it's all the same. You know, there's other theories that our universe is merely a black hole. Merely a black hole on the event horizon of what's called a white hole. And as you know, with black holes, the way we understand it is that the gravity is so intense that at the end of the black hole is an infinitely small point that has infinite amount of mass gravity. So all of the space of the entire universe can fit into something smaller than your thumbnail. Much smaller than your thumbnail. So this whole idea of space is just an illusion. So how can you have an entire universe here? Because it's all irrelevant. But what makes you unique in all of this is that you have consciousness. You have self-awareness. And that all consciousness is connected by a quantum field. What you do has an effect on me. What I do has an effect on you. And at the same time, I am independent of you, and you are independent of me. You can allow yourself to be moved on this quantum web. You know, when something happens over here, the quantum web, you know, it vibrates, and you can choose to allow that vibration to affect you where you are, or you can choose to be independent of that. Those vibrations on the quantum web of other people's consciousness may want to push you towards a certain reaction. And you can allow that to happen. You can allow a reaction to happen within you. Or you can decide that you're going to operate from that infinity of consciousness that you are and realize that those are just things inside of you. They don't have the power to control you. In fact, you have the ability to change them. I'm sure you've heard it if you've been on my channel. If you're newer to my channel, then you might enjoy this story. So there's a Huna shaman by the name of, what is his name? Haleakala Hugh Lin. So Huna is the indigenous spiritual path of the Hawaiian people. And in Huna, a Huna master, you know, they're able to heal other people in a way that you would not expect. So you probably, like I would, you think that if somebody has healing power, they will stretch out their hands and energy will come out of their hands and energy will go into the other person and will heal them of the disease, which can happen. But if you're like me, that's what you think is probably going to take place. Their perfection, they have accumulated a lot of energy, enlightenment, something like that, and they're going to use that power to change the physical cells within your body. And you know, a lot of people come to me asking me for that kind of stuff, and I say, I don't do that. And I don't know if they're disappointed or not, but people ask me to do that. I say, I'm not going to do that, but I'll teach you how to do it for yourself if you want. And people would much rather have somebody else do it for them because they think they're these tiny little things in this huge universe and that this huge universe is exerting all this pressure on them, when in reality that's just another way of looking at it. If you want to look at it that way, you can. So Haleakala Hugh Lin, he was well known. He was a psychologist. I think he's a psychologist. I think he's still alive. A psychologist, and so he was asked, because he lives in Hawaii, and he was asked by a Hawaiian insane asylum. They had some really nasty folks in there. People that they had to do things like chain them to the wall because if you got too close, they'd bite your ear off. Throw feces at you. Really horrible. They didn't like it, but they had to treat these people like animals, or at least the worst cases. So they had heard a lot of great things about this psychologist, Huna shaman. So they come to him and they talk to him about it and ask him if he will come and work for them. And he goes within himself and he comes to the realization that that is something that he needs to do for himself. So that's the only time he apparently will take any of these jobs, is if he gets the feeling within himself this is something that he needs to do for himself, he'll take it on. So he says, yes, I'll come and work for you. So he says, give me an office in your hospital. And so they give him they give him an office in the hospital. And they say, okay, so when can you see the patients? And he says, oh, I'm never going to see the patients. They say, how are you possibly going to treat them? And he says, this is just the way that I do it. All I want you to do is give me their files. And then I will go into my office and I will do my work. And, they were desperate. So they said, okay. And so he goes in there and doesn't meet any of these people. Never once talks to them, has no interaction with them whatsoever. Those people don't even know he exists. And he's sitting there on the desk and there's a stack of files and he'll take a file out, open it up, and he'll be reading in the file, oh, patient X bit off the ear of an attendant, and then he has a response. He goes, oh my God, that's horrible. And he closes the file and he puts it back on the desk, and then he does his shamanic work. And what he does is that he reminds himself that person that he just had a shocking negative reaction to, he realizes that that's going on inside of him, because everything is inside of him. And then he realizes that he's the one that's doing it. And so what he calls it bad data. He says, I'm going to fix the bad data within my hard drive himself. And so he has a chant that he does, which is, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And the bottom line of that is that he's not talking to the other person that lives objectively in that cell. He's talking to that person inside of him, and he's apologizing to himself for creating such dysfunction and imbalance within himself, because that everything is inside of him. So he's apologizing to himself, and he seeks to love himself. And the way he does that is he then chooses to see that person for who he really is, which is, just like him, a perfect, totally complete being of light. And then as he does this mantra, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. He's working on seeing him, seeing that man as a perfect being of light. And when he can feel that he's achieved that, he moves on to either the next subject or the next thing. And then when he's done with all of the files, he's healed himself of the imbalances. And as you would imagine, magically, the people in there heal spontaneously. They, without anybody talking to them or doing anything, they spontaneously heal. So much so that they're released. When somebody's asked him, I've seen him in some interviews, and somebody asked him, how do I deal with the such and such outside of me? And he goes, nothing's outside of you. Everything is inside of you. So now I want to examine a phrase that is tossed around in New Age, esoteric, occult circles, which is, as above, so below. Have you heard that? You've never heard me say that. If I have said it, I've said it maybe one or two times out of context. You'll never hear me say that. As above, so below. What you will hear me say is, your external circumstances are a reflection of your internal state of being, which is different. Can you see the difference there? As above, so below says that we live in a dual plane of existence. But you don't live in a dual plane of existence. You live in a unified state. You are everything. I am inside of you. If you're having an experience listening to me, and I hope you're having an experience where you're learning, or you can feel the energy of this concept getting inside of you and changing you, it's because you're doing it to yourself. Happens all the time. I will come up with an idea, and I think I've been working all day on this idea for a video, and people will say, I meditated yesterday and was wanting you to talk about this. Because I'm inside of you. I'm just one of the many, many infinite things that lives inside the infinity of your soul. So when you can come to that awareness, there's no need to make anything happen. There's no need to do anything. Except the one reason that you decided to quantum fold all of that infinity into a tiny little spot in this physical body that you live in. You did that. You did all of that incredibly magnanimous, unbelievably stupendous event. You did that for one reason, so that you could fulfill your own desires. You manifested a four-dimensional universe. It's actually 4 dimensions, not 3. I used to call it 3. 4-dimensional universe. Limited 4-dimensional physical universe. You manifested that, everything in it, including me, so that you would have the experience of being limited, so that you would then really gain fulfillment, personal pleasure out of following a desire that you came here with. I don't know what that is. I call it your soul desire. And as I've said from the very beginning, there's only 2 things that happen in this life. Everything else are details. You came here to do one thing. There is one commandment that you must fulfill. If you do not fulfill that commandment, you will be miserable. You will be miserable, you will be poor and or sick and or lonely and or insane and or depressed and or angry and or something. You will be miserable on some level if you do not obey this one commandment. And this one commandment is, you must take the actions in this 4-dimensional limited universe to bring your soul the happiness that it came here to experience. Now, the second thing that you are here to do, because as I said, you're only here to do 2 things. Everything else are details. The first one is that you must obey that one commandment. The second thing is, you must burn through all of the karma that will be awakened when you take action towards what your soul wants. Are you listening to the specific words that I'm saying? Your karma will be awakened like a program that's waiting to be turned on. Your karma will be awakened as a result of the action or inaction that you take towards your soul desire. If you take action towards your soul desire to make your soul happy, you will be thrust with challenges. Everybody's got different. Some are going to have more than others, but you will have challenges. Those challenges are called your karma. And your karma will always be, always be associated with the choice between making other people happy, living for other people, getting your value or your worth from other people, other things, other institutions, even the idea. You could say, I don't have anybody in my life, I live completely alone. Well, then the idea of what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be this kind of a person. A good person does this. A strong person does that. A man does this. You're either following that script in some way. You're making the world happy. You're making God happy. You're making your spouse happy. You're making your parents happy. You're making your next door neighbor happy. And you get your worth and your value based on whether or not you feel accepted by these outside sources. When you go after what your soul wants, the karma is going to come up and you will become aware of your challenges. You will become aware of the choice. And it will be challenging. And then you will have to follow the path of Odin, who sacrificed himself, little s, to himself, big S. You will then have to sacrifice yourself to yourself. You will have to sacrifice that small part of you that wants to throw yourself away in the hopes that these other tiny beings inside of you will love you and accept you. If you die to that attachment of wanting their love and approval, then your big S self, the Odin within you, will reveal the secrets of the universe, the runes. And then you will, like Odin, I'm just realizing this right now, it's blowing my mind. Odin is the only one of the gods who can travel to all of the 9 worlds. He can travel to all of the 9 worlds because he has died to any limitation, and he only lives for the pleasure of his own soul. So if you think about it that way, since everything is you, if you make yourself happy at a soul level, you will then fulfill the needs and desires of everything in the universe. You'll never have to worry again about, gosh, do I make them happy or do I make myself happy? You'll never have to make that decision again. So, if you had unlimited power to do whatever you want, what would you do? Now, I'm going to answer that question for you. If the answer that when I ask you if you had unlimited power to do whatever you want in this universe, if the answer to that is you say, I would make so-and-so do this, I would rule the universe this way, and everybody would bow down to me, then you've missed the point. You're a narcissist. That's what a narcissist does. Narcissist devalues everything around him or her and wants everything to bow down and worship him or her because they have no value, they have no sense of self. That is actually the epitome of wanting to gain other people's love and approval. But if I say to you, if you have infinite power to do absolutely anything you want, what would you do? If your response has something to do with enjoying getting fulfillment out of being in this universe and experiencing it while allowing everyone else the freedom to be themselves, then you've got a pretty good indication that you're following your soul. If your idea of what you want to have happen includes other people having to do this or having to do that, or you want to have people stop doing this or stop doing that, or learn this or become that, then you're off in that other realm where you're trying to gain approval of the world. But when you can look at everybody in whatever state of awareness that they're in, and not want to change anything about them, while simultaneously being able to see within them is perfect, infinite light, then you're on the right path. You're going in the right direction. Because you, as the source of everything, you only change the other characters in this universe of yours when you change yourself. Since they're linked to you, you can't change them until you change you. So if I go back to Haleakala Hugh Lin, he's like, I don't want to talk to that person. I don't even want to see that person. I don't want that person to know I exist. Because if I go and I start trying to change him, I'm in denial of the fact that he's inside of me. And we walk around with the feeling that other things can harm us. Other people can do things to us. I made a whole video about this that I ended up not posting because I didn't like the vibe that I was giving off. But one of the things that I'm going to have to change within me is when I start talking about the conspiracy theories that I have now come to accept as true, one of the things that happens is then all of a sudden people whom I experience as being fear-based then all of a sudden think that now I'm part of their club, and then they want to dump all of this fear-based, conspiracy theory nonsense. And it frustrates me. So I'm like, they're not getting it. So that's why we're not talking about that today. Anyway, how can we access this? I know how I access it. Through this stuff. There is a shift coming. I don't know when it's coming. It feels like it's coming really soon. And this is a monumental historical shift that's never happened in the history of the human race. And I'm using my hands like this because we live in a bubble of consciousness that is about to get blown apart. And we're going to become aware of our presence in a much larger universe. That the laws of what we believe to be true are going to be shattered. And some people are going to have a hard time with it. Some people, a good example is flat earthers. They really want to have a limited universe. And the thought of them living in a universe where they're just living on one ball spinning in empty space, surrounded by billions and billions of other little worlds with other people on them, that's too much. People can't handle that. Their idea of God, their idea of religion gets completely destroyed. This is coming. It's coming very soon. We'll talk more about it. So, I didn't quite say everything that I wanted to say, except that if you're like me, you need some kind of technology to tap you into the power of your consciousness. And that's what all this stuff here is. This is the one that I'm pointing at the most all the time because this is the cutting edge of what I'm sharing with you, which is, as you hear in the introduction, I am sharing with you a unified energy system that has never been taught in the history of the human race. I'm the only person, to my knowledge, that's teaching this. Combination of Qigong plus Kundalini plus the lightning center of the heart, the heart mind. The combination of these three energies is a energetic bunker buster. It will go into your limited, tight little understanding of the universe, and it will explode it. It will expand your awareness and your energy, and you'll be ready for what's coming. So, this is a question and answer. If you have any questions, please write the word question in all caps, please. And if you have a feeling, you can share an honest feeling. If you want me to see it, then you're going to have to put it in all caps, not the whole thing, just the word question or the phrase feeling, honest feeling. If I don't see that, there's a chance I might miss it. And if I see you haven't done that, I may give you a hard time for not paying attention and following my request. Having said that, let's take a look and see what we got here. We have Thundra Staves Rangel. Thundra Staves Rangel, you can go to her website, which is Thundra, Thundra, thunderwizard.com. She is one of my Vedic astrologers, and she is also a shaman in her own right, and a teacher and a healer. And so anyway, you can go check out all the stuff she has. And then we have Vincent.thunderwizard.com, who is also one of my astrologers. You can go check him out and all of the shamanic services he has at Vincent.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to do the same thing for you that I just did for them, you can go to Lockdown, LOCKDOWN.thunderwizard.com. And if you take that course and pass the very simple test, I will do the same thing for you. If you show up on the live stream and say hello, I will give people your web address and promote you. Agent of the Universe has a question. I've been continuing the practices and I was making progress, such as more sensitivity to the energies around me and feeling less dense, but I feel like I hit a figurative wall. Any advice? Yeah, don't take any of it seriously. That's just an experience. It's great that you have experiences. Listen, I do the practices so I can have an experience. I do the practices because there isn't a drug powerful enough for me. The only thing that gives me the high that can never be reached is this stuff. There's nothing no man-made chemical that can come close to the high I get. So I do it for the experience, first and foremost. That's the great thing about the universe. It'll put a carrot in front of you, give you a really great experience, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. You'll have all kinds of great experiences. But that's all they are. They don't mean anything. So you hit a wall. So what? You only do what you have control over, which is your actions. You don't have control over your feelings. You don't have control over one day you feel good, one day you don't, one day you've hit a wall, another. You don't have any control over that. But you have control over getting up off your ass and doing the practices every day, no matter what. Whether you have an experience or don't have an experience, you have control over that. So my advice is, big deal. Just keep doing it. It's like the weather, it's going to change. Tomorrow you're going to have more experiences and you're going to think that you're making progress, which really you're not, any more than the fact that you've hit a wall means that you're not making progress. It's just an experience. The weather's going to change tomorrow. Continuing on, Agent of the Universe says, I've thought about using my intention to ask the Ascended Master for assistance. Well, what is it you want them to do? You want them to give you a better feeling? There is growth in being conscious while you're not feeling so great. So you can ask them for assistance all you want, but don't demand. If asking for assistance means, I want you to give me an experience, then they're not going to respond well. Asking for assistance means, I don't know what I need. However you want to help me. It's okay to come with them and say, here's what I'd like help with, but don't attach anything to it because you don't know what you need and what you don't need. You're just doing your thing. So just do your thing, have an experience, don't have an experience, don't overthink it, and don't demand that anybody, including the universe or the Ascended Masters, do anything other than whatever's best for you. All right. So, but I've been apprehensive because I feel like, well, if you're bothering them, trust me, they're very individuated. The ascended masters are perfectly capable of not answering the phone. I do it all the time. If somebody calls me and I don't want to pick up the phone, I don't. So if you're being a nuisance, they're perfectly capable of letting it go to voicemail. Okay? Atham Animist, honest feeling. I've been feeling quite anxious lately, feeling as though my world is collapsing in on itself. At the same time, I've noticed a need within myself to pull back and focus. I'm having a lot of same experiences. I think a lot of it has to do astrologically. There's some shifts going on. Jupiter's getting ready to go into Pisces. So imagine that. Pisces is a Jupiter sign. It has to do with the deepest part. Pisces is the end of the 12 houses. It means leaving this world, deep spirituality. So the Lord of that sign is going to go into his own sign. I'm looking to enjoy that because I already have Pisces retrograde in Pisces, Jupiter retrograde in Pisces. So I'm going to be having a lot of Jupiter in Pisces in the 8th house stuff going on for me. So I'll let you know what goes on there. But anyway, I understand your feeling and I'm sharing it. Thundra Staves Rangel just threw $1.99. I can now retire. Thank you. That's it. Good night. Thank you, Thundra. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything everybody does. I appreciate you showing up and watching. But I appreciate the most is the fact that you are working to improve yourselves, because when you improve yourself, you improve me. And so that is the kindest thing you can do for me, is to take advantage of this. If you don't want to do my stuff, do somebody else's. But do some of the work here. Do something. The free Qigong, the free meditations. Do some work. And I will be eternally grateful to you for that. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, Thundra, for the $1.99. Agent of the Universe, question. Can I have an energy transmission from you, or could you teach me how to transmit energy to myself? I already told you how to transmit energy to yourself. Agent of the Universe, what is the theme? You are everything. The idea that I can transmit energy to you. I mean, people do that. It's not that doesn't happen. But the underlying assumption is that you need something, that there's something wrong. I happen to know enough about you to know that that's where your brain goes all the time. Learn to just have your feelings without any judgment. Don't try. Having me do an energy transmission on you is for you having me take your feelings away. Just have your feelings and take action as though you are everything. That's called enlightenment. Let's see. Rivera Rovix. Question. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. That's the mantra. Oh, okay. That's the mantra. Okay, is that a question? You say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So I don't understand your question. But I'm glad that I was able to help you remember that. Moon Priestess, honest feeling. This was 8 months ago, but I started studying psychology and also doing your practices about a year ago. One of my narratives was, if I'm happy, you will kill your dad. My dad programmed to believe that no one... Oh yeah, if you're happy, you'll kill your dad. Yeah. So you were feeling that about yourself, that if you were happy, it would damage your father. That is very common. We all have that. It means that there's a part of you that is regressed. So you're a psychologist, so you know what that means. It means that you're regressed back in that time period. So here's the thing about the unconscious, everybody. Whatever issues you have that are unresolved, you are stuck in whatever time frame that happened. If you were an infant, you're stuck in infancy. If you were a toddler, that feeling is constantly, you are stuck as a toddler in that experience. I'll give you an example in my life. My older brother, as you know, was abusive to me. And I was 40 years old, I think. I was 40 something years old. And I was in a lot of pain because he had just done and said something really abusive. And I was thinking about all the stuff he'd done. And I had a therapist at the time. I don't have that same therapist anymore. But I was with him and I was wondering why. What did I do? I was trying to figure out, what did I do to make him hate me so much? And then I was saying, he's acting like a 4-year-old. And then I went, wait, what happened to my brother when he was 4? And then I realized, oh, I was born. When I was born, he was no longer the baby. And my mom gave all of her attention to me in his mind. He never got over that. He had been punishing me from a place of being a 4-year-old. He never grew past it. So that feeling that you have, whatever age you were at, that you came to that belief, because little kids, like little toddlers, infants and toddlers, actually believe that their emotions can destroy the world. They believe that they can destroy somebody with their hate or create everything with their loving feelings. They believe they are God because their emotions are everything. So that feeling, which I also had as well, which is that if I'm happy, it will kill my father. Now that's not nobody consciously thinks that it's a feeling. It means that that's where you're regressed and trapped at that stage. And so one of the things to do is to work with your, quote, inner child. That sounds so cheesy, but you can. You can imagine yourself at that age and talk to yourself and bring your little self aside and sit yourself on your knee, or take a little tiny self and put it on your chest and tell yourself, I know that it feels like if you betray Dad, it'll destroy him if you make yourself happy. I understand. And then you can talk some sense into yourself. That's one way to handle it anyway. You didn't ask for my advice, but I gave it to you anyway. If I'm happy, you'll kill your dad. My dad programmed to believe that no one cared about how I felt, and specifically him. He also said he knew I wasn't happy and didn't care and threatened to put me 6 feet into the ground. That's really horribly abusive. I'm so sorry you went through that. So after that, I just thought nobody cared about my feelings or didn't want to listen to them. And by then I had already forgiven him, but I was able to be conscious of what I was doing to myself. Okay, so let's talk about forgiveness. People throw this word forgiveness around a lot. I'm not talking about you specifically, Moon Priestess. You just reminded me of it. So please don't think that this is about you. It's not. Here's the thing, resentment. So the word resentment means to re-feel. So again, using my life as an example, my father drank himself to death. While he was still alive, I was working through all of my anger towards him and resentment towards him. And I had a lot of pain and anger because he didn't do for me what other kids' dads did for them. He didn't take me down to the field and play catch with me. He made a bunch of promises that he never fulfilled. He wasn't there for me in a lot of ways, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was in a lot of pain over that, and I was really angry with him. And so what I did is I did a process in the 12 steps called the 4th step. If you want to go look it up, you can. But bottom line of it is that you take full responsibility for your anger. That if you're angry, it means that you are at fault. As strange as that sounds. And how could I be at fault? I mean, on paper, I was born into that family. I didn't make him drink himself to death. I didn't make him do all those things. I was just a little kid who needed a dad, and he wasn't there for me, and he did all these horrible things. And what do you mean I'm responsible for my anger? Well, I came to the realization that after looking at what I wanted from him, because you can't be angry with somebody if you don't want something from them first. Okay? You cannot be angry with somebody if you don't want something from them first. What I wanted was I wanted my dad to do what, dads should have done. I wanted him to be my bud. I wanted him to be my dad. I wanted him to be all those things that dads are supposed to be. And he wasn't any of those things. And the only reason that I held on to it was because I was holding on to what I wanted from him that he wasn't giving me. And that made me angry. And then when I realized that he had the right to do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to drink himself to death, if he wanted to be miserable, if he wanted to, whatever it is that he was doing that I didn't like, he had the right to live that way. That's on him. Now, when you're talking about somebody being abusive to you, which is what you're talking about, that's a little bit different. But for instance, let's say I use the example of, if you get the flu, like have you ever been really, really sick, like almost died sick? Once you get over that illness, you don't spend any time thinking about, my God, I was so sick for that whole 2 months. You don't think about that. It's over with. The danger is gone. You move on with your life. You don't think about it. You don't have any resentment. You don't have any resentment means to re-feel. You're not revisiting that, and you don't have any of that. It's just, it was a danger. The danger's gone, and you're okay now. So I was an adult. I was no longer a 5-year-old kid wanting my dad to take me to the park and play catch with me. So why was I so upset over it? I didn't want to do that now. I didn't need to go to the park and play catch with him. I had other things to do. I was re-feeling old feelings that I had an attachment to. So when it comes to forgiveness, forgiveness is not just deciding that you're going to forgive somebody for what they did, because there's no shortage of people that do that, and all they're really doing is just denying to themselves that they're in pain and that they're angry. And in my experience, forgiveness is a result of taking full responsibility for what you wanted from somebody that they didn't give to you. Then, for me, then the release comes. So anyway, you made me think about that. I don't mean this as a comment on your comment here, Moon Priestess. So you go on to explain, let's see, what you did for yourself. So after that, I already had forgiven him, but I was able to be conscious of what I was doing to myself. My love and acceptance came from what I was doing for others all the time. Yeah, so that's the same idea of you're getting your worth from what you do for others as opposed to just loving yourself, if I'm reading that right. I always made people happy before myself. 2 months ago, I also realized why I get triggered and upset when people don't listen to me or understand me. And that also comes from my dad not caring what I have to say or yelling in my face when I do say something or express how I feel. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. All right. So anyway, a bunch of stuff there, which I'm not going to go through all of that, but I'm really glad that you are sharing that feeling. Sharing feelings honestly from a place of real vulnerability is a way that we can shift. It's a way of taking full responsibility. As long as we're not doing it as long as we're doing it from an honest, vulnerable place. I'll just leave it there. Okay, let's see. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Honest feeling. I've been feeling terrible lately health-wise and have been sulking in my misery because I'm in physical pain. Very sorry to hear that. Your advice to take things one day at a time is helping, and I'm trying. Good for you. Keep it up, my friend. Rovira Rovix, question. She didn't write it in all caps. How many times do I need to ask you to do that? Pay attention and put effort. I was trying to remember the mantra you mentioned of the man that healed people. I'm that hospital, in that hospital. Could you repeat it again, please? I arrived at that moment. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That's the mantra. Moon Priestess, honest feeling. The second time, oh, and then she apologizes for writing small. Okay, I forgive you. Moon Priestess, honest feeling. The second time I was at the hospital, my dad never answered my calls and never came to pick me up. Then my mom had to come out and fly out from Oregon to Texas to get me. That sounds really awful. I'm sorry you went through that. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I'm grateful that Coda's helping me. It's relieving to share my feelings with supportive people. I'm sad that I didn't get the much needed emotional support during childhood. I understand. Okay, so this sounds like it was a heavy thing for people today, but I would like to invite you to meditate on the idea. The phrase that I'm trying to come up with, which has a lot of power for me, is that consciousness, which is you, if you're awake and you're conscious, what you are is you are the infinite universe quantum folded in on itself, placed inside a human body, which means that you have and are everything. So if you want help with that, then my other suggestion is to do the lightning qigong, because that for me is the most powerful way to have that experience. So I invite you to do that same thing. If you want to do that, you go up here to thunderwizard.com and then subscribe at the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And you got nothing to lose. You can do the practices. I'm out there showing them to you. Again, it's a unified energy system. You're not going to find anywhere else. And I challenge you to give it a try for a month. If it doesn't work, you can unsubscribe. What have you lost? Dream Crusher, what is it that I say about all caps? Come on, you guys, pay attention. Dream Crusher. I mean, I can't get mad at you for that feeling, but what are you doing on my channel? Seriously, I used to be a born-again Christian. Do you know that? Why would you want to preach to me about that? I was a Christian. I was a minister. I used to go on the street and preach. I was in seminary. I used to read the New Testament in Greek. I'm pretty sure I know the Bible better than you. And I know that Christians believe in the literal interpretation of the Bible, which says that any spirit, and I'm a spirit because I'm a human being, I have a spirit in me, any spirit that does not confess Jesus Christ as Lord is from the devil. So if you believe that, what are you doing here? Why are you wasting your time? With as much kindness as I can muster, do you realize how pathetic it is that you can't mind your own business to such a degree that you need to tell somebody else what to believe because you honestly believe that they are at a disadvantage if they don't share the same intellectual belief that you have? So in case people don't know, Dream Crusher, I want you to think about this. Are you really honestly looking to evolve? Because that's the only reason I can imagine you're on my channel. If you're a Christian, there's no reason for you to be here. Zero, none whatsoever. And if you honestly feel that you need to preach to me about Jesus Christ, then you haven't studied your own Bible enough to understand what that means, to believe in Jesus. You don't know what it means if you're on here listening to me and then wanting to talk to me about Jesus. But here's what Christians believe. So Dream Crusher, you can decide whether or not this applies to you. This applied to me, and it applied to everybody that I knew that was a devout Christian. Christians believe that they are imbued with the Holy Spirit, which is one of the three personalities of God. Even though God is a Trinity, there's only one God, and we can't figure that part out. But and by the way, there's nothing in the Bible about there being a Trinity, by the way. That's completely imposed upon Christianity after the fact. But more than likely, Dream Crusher, if you really are a Christian and you believe what Christianity teaches, then you believe that because you believe in Jesus, you have been infused with the Holy Spirit, which is God. And that Spirit of God, which I don't have because I'm not a Christian, or anybody else, if they haven't accepted Jesus, they don't have the Holy Spirit in them either, which means that they don't know what's going on. They don't know the truth. You believe that you do. So you feel that you're superior to all other people. You also believe that if I don't believe in your Savior, that I will spend eternity burning in hell. I mean, God won't destroy me or have me fade out of existence. He will punish me eternally. For what? For my intellectual belief. This is what you believe. And you want to give me that? Do you not see how incredibly abusive that is? Just to have that feeling about other people is abusive. I mean, it's one thing to have your own feelings and keep it to yourself, because we all have feelings that we shouldn't share with people all the time. But when you preach to somebody about accepting your Savior, you are devaluing them. You are telling them they are less than human. You are telling them that you are superior to them. You are telling them that they are so unworthy of existence that God will punish them forever. That is your religion. Do you really want to hold on to that? And again, why are you on this channel? I don't understand it. If you're on this channel because you want to let go of that, I mean, you're welcome to be here. It's just, that's such a strange thing to say. But at the same time, I guess I shouldn't be giving you a hard time, because that's your honest feeling. And then you go on to say, I'm sorry, I just thought I was going to help you. How? What is it? What about that gives you the feeling that I need that from you? I mean, the condescension to walk in and just assume. Do you realize that? Do you realize that wherever you go, you have this assumption that everybody around you needs what you have to give them? That if you don't give it to them, God will be upset with you and them. Is this really what you want? Now you say, I do want to let it go. Okay, so you want to let Christianity go? Good, then I invite you to do that. Here's what you're going to do. If you really honestly are ready to let go of that religion. If you're not, I don't want to talk you out of it. My suggestion is, if you like that religion, don't go where you don't belong. What I mean by that is, I don't walk into Christian churches. I would never even think of walking into anybody's church and raising my hand and trying to tell them what I think they need to believe. And that's what you just did. You walked into my house. I invited you into my house. You walked into my house and you came with the assumption that you were going to talk down to me and everybody else about how we need to accept your belief system, because if we don't, God will throw us in hell and punish us forever. You can't deny that's what you were thinking and believing. It's incredibly devaluing. Horrifically devaluing. It's an abusive belief system. I mean, do you want people to think that way about you? Do you want to walk into somebody's house and have them look at you and think, wow, that guy is so screwed up and so let me tell you what you need to do. Otherwise, you will burn forever in hell. Would you want to be on the other end of that? Nobody likes to feel like that. When I left Christianity and I told my Christian friends why I was doing it, they were my friends, and I was telling them, that the reasons why, and some of them were crying, and one guy said, Mike, I really respect you, but I don't want to be you. I just wish I could, and then they started preaching at me, and I realized, oh, that's what it feels like. And I never knew what it felt like to be on the other side of somebody preaching at me, telling me that I was damned, that I was going to go to hell, that I didn't have the truth, that I couldn't see the truth. I never knew what that was like until after I walked away from Christianity. And that's what you're doing, Dream Crusher, every time you want to go and tell people what to believe. And based on what you just said, you first say, I thought I was going to help you. And then you say, I do want to let it go. It's just so difficult. So what you're telling me is that you really don't believe that. Because if you honestly do believe it, good for you. Go to church and enjoy it. Don't walk into other people's houses telling them what they need to do. I wish you all the best. But you're telling me that you don't believe it. Because if you believed it, you wouldn't want to let it go. So if you want to let it go, here's what that means. It means that you don't believe you're worthy of God's love. Because if you did believe you were worthy of God's love, it wouldn't matter what you believed. Because God is not abusive. If Jehovah says, you must believe in me, and if you don't believe in me, I will punish you forever. And if you don't believe this exact way, you don't deserve to live. That God doesn't love you. That God is a narcissist who says, in order to have my love, you must do what I say. You don't have any value in what you disobeyed me the tiniest bit, you're now eternally damned. That is a narcissist. So, if you mean what you say, that you want to let go of it, then I'm going to give you an assignment. Go to, you can go on this channel and hear me read this book for free. I'll read it. I read it aloud, and you can listen to me read it. I would suggest getting the book and reading it. You can go to Amazon and look for the book. It says Odin says Jesus was a coward. And then you can find out where that religion came from, the historical truth of where that religion came from, and how it has been used to control people for, from the beginning of the Abrahamic monotheist revolution, which was 3,500 BC. Before 3,500 BC, there was no such thing as monotheism. Didn't exist. If you want to understand where that came from and how that's been used by the elite to control you and how you are still being controlled by it, you can read that book. Odin says Jesus was a coward. All right, let's see. Honest feeling. Hell is creepy. I would never want to go there, or wicked. Hell is with us. We either live in heaven or we live in hell. It doesn't matter. Heaven and hell are things within us. Everything is within us. So we can take some decisions and make some actions to decide where we want to live. Let's see. I follow water. Honest feeling. Again, I prefer it's in all caps. Remember, please, guys, please. I only do as I desire. Is this there for the people around me? Well, we have to define, so I follow water. You've been on my channel for a while. Do you understand, or have you read the book or watched the video, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life? Because that's the answer to that question. Because some people will say, is it my sole desire to, and they'll say something ridiculous, like doing something abusive to other people. And I'll say, no, that's not your sole desire. But it sounds fun to me. So just because you're doing what you desire first, the question is whether or not you are in touch with the desire of your soul, or whether you are confusing your desire, to fit in or whatever as your desire. So I can't answer that. If you follow your desire first, what are we talking about? If you're asking me that question and you are following your soul desire, you don't need to ask that question, because you already know through experience that when you follow your true soul desire, everybody else is empowered, even if they're disappointed in you. So if people want you to do their thing in order to stay with them and get their approval, and that's damaging to you, and you do something different, they may be disappointed, but they will be empowered, because either in this life or the next, they will be reminded by your example what it means to do what you truly believe. All right, you just say that was a statement, not a question. All right, there we go. No more questions. Okay, good. Yeah, so I recommend that to everybody. He says, I watched that's not an honest feeling. I watched the first chapter. Okay, so, I mean, we're having a conversation, so that's all right. But I recommend everybody, if there's one book of mine that you read, it is that one, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. If you can master what's in that book, then you won't need to do anything else. It's the most important information that I can give you. Rovera Rovix, she forgot again to capitalize. Question, there's a thing called universal laws. Do you have a video dedicated to that topic? You know the answer to that question I'm going to give you. Have you looked for it? If you want to look for it on my channel, go look for it. Do you know how to search within my channel? I encourage you to do that. And if I have a video about I actually don't even know what that means. So the answer to the question is no. It's good to ask me questions about things I teach. You won't know what I teach if you don't research my channel. Okay, that's it. I'm now no longer feeling inspired. I'm now getting tired and hungry. So I'm going to leave. I wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much. And remember, if you can, that you are the most powerful being in existence. There is nothing more powerful and amazing than you. And all that needs to happen, not that that's an easy thing to do, is to awaken to that awareness. And so I'm planning to do that for myself. And if you want to join me, please feel free to follow along. Again, if you're not doing the work, that's what this channel is all about. Please do any of the free practices on the channel. Or if you want to make it easier on yourself, go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe, and just follow the instructions. And my experience is that it will empower you in ways. Anyway, I'm getting tired now, so I'm going to shut up. That's all. I wish you guys all the best. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys all next time. Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at thunderwizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at thunderwizard.com. Get ready, because here I come.